Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to do a comparison between Dungeons and Dragons, between D&D 5e combat mechanics and Modiphius's 2d20 combat mechanics at the base level. At the base level, right? This is not talking about, your friend who built the best build because Dungeon Dude, built the best subclass build with all the right feats because the Dungeon Dudes told him how to do it, and then he copied it and he showed up at your table, right? That's one of the reasons why I really dislike all those subclass channels. They just make the hobby worse. They make Dungeons and Dragons participation worse, in my humble opinion, at many levels, not all levels. I think the Dungeon Dudes are, official D&D canon authors at this point. All hail. Woo! All right. Okay, so let's get into this. So I want to talk. So first of all, the reason why we're going to talk about this is I have used Modiphius's 2d20 system through Star Trek Adventures, and I just transitioned from a Dungeons and Dragons game to a Star Trek Adventures game, right? And so basically at this point, I had read through. So the way that we learned this was I had read through Star Trek Adventures years ago when I got it, right? And then when we switched over, our campaign went from 1 week to the next week, and we were went from Dungeons and Dragons straight over to Star Trek Adventures, which uses Modiphius's 2d20, okay? And so basically then what I did was I read all of the material, right, that was specific to the base level. So I read, how do you do difficulty checks? How do you do combat, right? And read it once, and I'll tell you, when I was done reading it, my head was spinning on the Star Trek Adventure side. I was like, what? That's a lot, right? Like, I read all that. I don't know if I got all that, right? Like, that was a lot, right? Like, so basically, let's walk it through. So in D&D 5e, and by the way, Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, that's 2014 to 2024. Dungeons and Dragons VE, right? Dungeons and Dragons VE starts 2024 to the future. Okay, so I'm just talking about D&D 5e. This is before the new D&D VE, the Roman edition, drops. Quite interesting. All right. So D&D 5e, let's do a standard, let's do a ranged attack. So a ranger fires a ranger fires an arrow at a human brigand, right? Just like a bandit on the road, right? I'm going to say brigand, I mean bandit. All right, okay. So so basically his strength is 16, so he's going to get a +3, and he is, and let's say his proficiency is 3, okay? Actually, let's say it's 2, just because it's different than his strength, So he is proficient with, he's a ranger, so he's proficient with the bow. He's going to be able to add his proficiency. He gets a +3 from strength. He gets a plus, and then he gets a +2 from his proficiency. That's a 5 to hit, okay? And this person's wearing like maybe chainmail, and their AC is 14. So this person needs to roll their d20, and they're getting a +5, so they just need to hit a 9 to hit this person, okay? So the ranger hits the human brigand. He rolls a 10, which is, total result is 15. He only needed a 14 to hit, right? So he's good to go. And then he can roll damage, right? And it's a longbow, so he rolls a 1d8, and he rolls a 1d8. He gets 4 damage, and then he's going to add 3 more from his strength, right? And so it's 7 points of damage. That's it. That's D&D 5e. That's a ranged attack at D&D 5e. Listen to this, all right? Okay, to do the same thing in Star Trek Adventures, and I just did this, right? So this player character in the game that I'm playing there used a phaser type 2 to shoot a human thug, right? Actually, yeah, he was So he was a human thug on a science, specifically he was, so human thug on a science station, okay? So here's how it starts. So first of all, in order to hit, you need to make, in order to hit, okay, you're going to roll, the player character will roll their control, that's an attribute, and their discipline, okay, and that discipline is going to be security, okay? This person has a 9, actually, yeah, so the person who was doing this had a 10, a 10 in control and a 5 in security, right? Which are close to the caps, right? These attributes cap out at 12, and the disciplines cap out at 5. Okay, so he needs to roll under a 15. Okay, because he has a control 10 and he has a discipline 5. They get added together, and then that is the difficulty check number. Okay, it's not the target number. We're getting there. You know, stay with me. All right, we'll go. I'm going to lead you there by the hand. Let's go. Okay. All right. So now he needs to get under 15. Now we need to check for a focus. Okay. What is a focus? It's like a skill, but what it does is it unlocks successes on the discipline. Right. So I unlock this success on the discipline. And so now anything rolled under a 15 is 1 success. Anything rolled under a 5 is 2 successes, and a natural 1 is always 2 successes. What? Like, yeah, okay, all right. Wow. You know, like, all right. And what is my target number? My target number is 2 successes. He's going to roll 2d20 because that is the system. It's a 2d20 system, right? It's a 2d20 system, okay? So he needs to roll 2 successes, but he can get 2 successes with one of those rolls if he rolls under a 5 on that 20, right? Holy cows. All right, so basically, and now he's about to make his 2d20 roll. The target number is he needs 2 successes. He's trying to roll under his control and his discipline added. And anything under his discipline number can be successes because he has a focus, which is hand phasers. Okay, so hand phasers focus allows this to be unlocked. Okay, and this is not even, this is a bog standing security officer. This isn't even somebody with a bunch of feats and stuff. It's astounding. I was like, what? Right? Like, so then in addition to that, then he's going to roll 2d20. All right, that's, now it seems pretty simple, right? But it's not. All right, so basically at this point we need to take into account how many d20s are going to be rolled, right? So the player character has 2 d20s for free. He can give me a momentum, 1 point of momentum, to buy another d20. Okay, and now he'd be rolling 3 d20. The player character chooses to do that. Player characters almost always have momentum 1 to 6. The pool is capped at 6, and most player characters are good enough at the game to manage having a pool of as low as 1 momentum up to 6. You can have 0 momentum, it does happen, but usually most good players will have between 1 and 6. They'll have this option. So now my player character has bought an extra d6 for a has bought an extra d6 for 1 point of momentum. Then, and the player characters always have this option. He says, I'm going to give you, the game master, 1 threat and get 1 more d20. And this isn't a special feat. This is just part of the game, right? It's not even, this is just a box standard attack, right? So now he gives me 1 threat and he's up to 4 d20, right? Now he needs to roll under 15s and under 5s, okay? So he rolls the 4 d20. He gets, what does he get? He gets, let me walk it through. Yeah, he gets a 4, a 6, a 19, and a 13. Okay? The 4 is actually 2 successes. Right? He gets a 4. Let me do that again. Yeah, let me do them in order. 4, 6, 13, and 19. Okay? 4, 6, 13, and 19. The 4 is 2 successes because it's under the discipline. The 6 is another success. The 13 is another success, and the 19 is nothing. So there are 4 successes, and he needed 2 successes to succeed. Okay? So now he has succeeded at hitting the target. We haven't even rolled damage yet. And he has 2 extra successes which turn into momentum. So now we increase his momentum pool. Okay? Holy cows. And the Game Master now has 1 extra threat. Okay? Then we roll damage. Roll damage is done with special dice. Special dice. Special dice with special symbols on them. Right? A Starfleet symbol, 1s and 2s, and blank and blank. So 1, 2, blank for 3, blank for 4, and 5 and 6s are both Starfleet symbols, right? So first of all, we were playing online, right? And so I'm like, oh my gosh, we got to roll these challenge dice for the first time. I'm sure there's a roller. There isn't. I go to get the roller. There's no free roller. We spent 5 minutes just trying to get a roller for these special dice. And sure enough, some dude had built one in Germany, but it doesn't work. Right? Like, it's free, but it doesn't work. So I think we absolutely could have paid to get this special dice roller. But so that was quite annoying. I did not like that, right? And right there, you're already into a very high level of complexity with special dice with special faces, right? And they're like, oh, don't worry, you could do it with a D6. It's just massively confusing. I'm like, okay, which is exactly what we did. We did it with regular D6 on a regular dice roller online, with which there's tons of for free, right? And you know, then did all the conversions, right? Then you're rolling a number of D6s. So you get a number of D6s equal to your security, and then a number of D6s equal to your security, and then also the weapon brings additional dice. And in this case, so this player character had 5 security and 3 dice, right? Holy cows, right? So now we're rolling 8d6 for a standard phaser shot. Now that's okay. A phaser is, is a highly complicated weapon. It has this feat called, it has exactly like weapon mastery. It has this special, a special quality to the weapon, which Dungeons and Dragons just added in Dungeons and Dragons VE. The new 2024 core edition, right? The new 2024 edition, Dungeons and Dragons VE. Okay. Excuse me. All right. So now, at this point, there's we roll 8d6, and we get Starfleet symbol. We get 2, 1, and then the rest are 3s and 4s, right? So that's effect, 1, and 2 more, okay? So that's a total of 5 damage and 2 effects, okay? Now, actually, the phaser has this thing called vicious, which means we can take those 2 effects and turn them into more damage. So now the total damage is 7, okay? 7 damage, and this person, your hit points in this game are your fitness and your security, okay? Attribute and your discipline. So this person has 12. So this phaser has already done 7 out of 12, has done more than half the damage to kill this person with 1 shot. And get this, then we have to check for injury, okay? If there are 5 or more points done on a single attack, the character takes an injury. If they do not get medical aid, before the end of the scene and they have an injury, they die. That's astounding, right? Now, player characters have a lot of ways to avoid injuries, right? But this is a bog standard thug, right? He doesn't have any resistance, and he doesn't have any way to avoid injuries, right? And that's it. So we end the round with 7 points of damage, and the player character can now run out of the room, end the scene, and that character dies because there's nobody there to give them first aid. That's incredible. That's incredible. Outrageously complicated, right? So is Star Trek 2D20 combat system better than Dungeons and Dragons combat system? Well, if every person at your table is super smart, has an extremely high tolerance complexity, and is extremely patient, because this took a ton of time to learn. We had to go through the entire book. We did no more than like to do a standard, right? We had to look all over the book. It literally took 45 minutes to do one phaser shot. And I have a master's degree, and the person I'm playing with is extremely smart and extremely patient, right? So to me, the answer is if every single person at your table, right, is extremely smart, extremely patient, then yes, the Star Trek system is better than, because there's so much you can do with it, and there's a lot of flexibility, and a skilled player is going to really be able to wring this thing out, right? All right, and the Dungeon Master have a lot to do with it too, and the mechanics actually match the theme, right? Whereas with Dungeons and Dragons, you can have a normal human at your table. You cannot have any normal humans at a Modiphius 2D20 table. Everybody's got to be super smart and super patient, right? And get this, you know your friends. You got people that are both. You got people that are super patient. You got people who are super patient, but maybe not super smart. And you definitely got people at your table who are super smart, but not super patient, right? So all told, I think the Dungeons and Dragons system is better because it can be played by normal human beings, right? Whereas the complexity is so outrageously high on the Modiphius 2D20 that there's no possibility that regular humans can play it, in my humble opinion. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking, subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.